Hey you. I'm back. I know it's been a while, but I'm here now. My new direct intention for this channel is for there to be a balance between the influencer self-makeup application fun side of things and the professional working makeup artist pro kit kind of things. So we're gonna find somewhere in the middle. And today I thought I would do my own makeup with things that I use in my kit, some of my favorite items. Now, some of these items I have for personal use and then depotted into things that I can carry around in my professional kit, and then other things I just have duplicates of. When I get new product, I like to test it out on myself first, see how it works, get a feel for it, and then test it out on other people when it's not going to cost me a job if it goes completely wrong. So something like a foundation, I would reserve for testing it out and working on myself. But something like a lip liner, where it's not a big deal if it does something that I'm not too happy with, I can easily remove and reapply with a trusted product, that I might venture to try on job. All right, I'm gonna get started. I usually prep the skin with something like Caudalie Beauty Elixir. Actually, not something like Caudalie Beauty Elixir. Usually it is Caudalie Beauty Elixir. And I'll just spray that on the face. Then I'll go in with moisturizer. I usually pick up Embryolisse Lait-Creme. That's my #1 go-to. I like it because you can work it on any type of skin, but it's really, really good for dry to combination skin. Oily skin, I might go in with something more mattifying, and if I have severely dry skin, then I might go in with something that's a lot more heavy and nourishing. Another moisturizer that I have been loving, I love Avene, I love the entire line. This is the Hydrance Serum. It's like intensive repair. It's lightweight on the skin, but kind of sinks into the deepest layers of the skin and hydrates. Next, I would go in with eye cream, and I'm using Avene Soothing Eye Contour Cream. And I would just tap that under the eye, and then slightly in, not so much on the lid because that's where I don't want my product to move. So I would keep the hydration focused more on the outer contour of the eye and under the eye, where I know the products that I'm going to use are going to be a little bit on the dry side, so I would prefer to prep the skin with extra moisture. Next, I would prep the lips, and I'm using the Bite Agave Lip Mask. I already had a little bit on my lips, but you can never have too much lip balm because you can always dab off the excess. Next would be the application of sunscreen. Now, I don't rely on my color products, my foundation or eyeshadow, powder, whatever it is, to provide the sun protection that I would like for my client or my model to have. So if we're shooting outside, then I would use something like this. This is the Cotz Flawless line. So this is the Flawless Complexion Disappearing Physical Sunscreen, and I would apply that now. So I'm going to take a little bit of that onto the back of my hand, apply where the highest points of the face are, that's where the sun typically hits first, and then blend out. Now I usually do use my hands for all the skin care application. If I'm working on someone who prefers not to be touched, then I will go in with a sponge or a brush. But I feel like the heat from the hands allows the product to melt into the skin really nicely. And then also you can use your fingertips to feel for more dehydrated areas, texture in the skin. You're also feeling for bone structure, for future reference in contouring and whatnot. So your hands are definitely an amazing tool, but in lieu of hands, you can definitely use a sponge or a brush. Other things that would happen during this process would be a lash curl. An amazing lash curl can lift the eyes in a way that shadow and liner can't. And also it minimizes the amount of product that I might need to use on an eye if I were to do more of a clean look. I really like the Surratt lash curler. That's what I keep. I have multiples of them, one for my main kit, one for my side kit, and then one just extra. Also, I might be doing a lip scrub, so a little bit of a scrub on the lips if the lips are really dehydrated, chapped, and flaky. I might also be applying masks, so sheet masks, either under the eye or entire face, depending on the condition of the skin. If it's very dehydrated, I might just lay that on the skin first and let it sit while I'm doing other things. So as far as primer on the skin, the only thing I really use is an eye primer unless there are major texture issues. Then I will go in with a primer that's especially made for that. But other than that, I just stick to eye primer. This is the NARS Tinted Smudge Proof eye primer, and I'll just tap that in with a finger. I could do that as well with a brush. I would stick to a synthetic dense brush to apply this primer. And I would probably do top and bottom, so from the lash line all the way up to the brow, and then some slightly on that bottom lash line going down just a bit. If I'm going to be on set and available to touch up the skin and just be there for whatever's needed, I probably wouldn't use an eye primer unless I wanted the colors to really pop, and an eye primer provided that ability. If it was really creamy or if it wasn't a contrasting color, then that would make sense. Next, I'm going to go into skin, and usually I pick up Beautyblender Bounce because it's a very versatile foundation. It is medium to full coverage, but the finish is not dry nor dewy. It's like a velvet finish. It's really beautiful. I've used it on mature skin, on very young, fresh spring chicken skin, and it looks beautiful on everybody. There are a lot of different undertones, but I would use a different foundation if the skin needed it. I carry about 4 different types of foundation, and then your concealers can always double up as a foundation if needed. So basically I apply a really light layer just to even out the skin. If there are any areas that need additional coverage, then I would go in with either this foundation and just add a second layer, or I would go in with a concealer. All right, so I'm done with foundation. I went in and applied it with a sponge, but the other types of tools that I reach for when going for foundation, depending on the type of foundation and the finish that I want, are going to be a brush like this. So this is a paddle brush because it is wide, flat. It's not poofy. It's not like a kabuki brush. And this is made of natural sable. Or I might buff something out with a brush like this. This is from Smashbox. It's called the Blurring Foundation Brush, and it's synthetic bristles. So it's really good for your creams, but it provides a more full type coverage when applying to the skin. And one more thing with a brush like this paddle brush here, I love it because it fits the contours of the face really nicely. You can get around the face, but you do need a little extra work to avoid streaks or brush strokes in the finished look of the foundation. All right, guys, sorry for that. There's been a jump in lighting. I'm still trying to figure out the setup for this room. I've been changing ISO. I've got curtains closed, open, lighting. Everything's been moving around. I think I have to get some blackout curtains for this. But anyway, contour would be next. I have done my base and I would go in with contour afterward. Cheekbones typically is what I go for. Maybe a little bit around the perimeter of the face. Usually I don't do a nose contour, but sometimes I will go in maybe jawline or whatnot. And creams are my preferred contour product or contour consistency. I like the Kiko sticks. I also really like the Anastasia Beverly Hills contour palettes. I don't find myself using the highlight portion, so the lighter tones in the 6 pans. I usually use the bottom row, which are the contour shades. And for my kit, I depot those into a little canister or a little pill box where I can easily scoop them out and play around with them. And then next I would go into bronzers. So this is what I carry in my kit. It's the Danessa Myricks Cream Bronzer, the Power Bronzer. This is in shade Light, so you can see it's pretty light and it's very warm. A little bit goes a long way with this guy, and I would just work him on the high points of the face and buff him out. Now, powder bronzers are nice, but when I'm laying down the base for my makeup, usually I will work in all creams. At the end, powders are typically in highlight and or blush form, but the contour, the bronzer, all that will be cream. These cream bronzers go on beautifully, and there are 3 shades. The deepest shade is absolutely delicious on dark skin. It is so beautiful. And I feel like that's a spot that's typically missed in bronzing and contour, are shades for deep skin. A little bit on the chin. And then I would go into blush. So the blush color, the tone, would depend on what I am planning to do for the rest. As far as the face, bronzer might be skipped, but the foundation, concealing, and contouring is basically the same. Then blush would typically be cream to start and then powder to finish if I choose to use a powder. The Senna Cream Makeup Kit, this is beautiful. It's super lightweight, perfect for the kit, but I've even made it smaller, a smaller version for my kit. And in my personal box, I've depotted one of the Pinky Rose shades, and I'll be applying that with an Urban Decay brush. This is the diffusing highlighter brush, which I'm using for blush. And I would just pounce that right on the center there. And if I go a little ham with my blush, then I can always go over with either my foundation brush if I use that, or my beauty blender. I'll bring it up into the higher point of the lid just a little bit, and maybe run that across the top of the nose, maybe a little there on the sides. Then with my sponge, just go over that, blend it all together, and it still looks bright and airy. Next, I would go in with under eye. So if I'm doing a really heavy eye makeup look, then I'll do all the eye makeup, so top and then the bottom, and smudge that out. If I'm going to do something really intense under the eye and pigment might be an issue, pigment fallout, then I'll skip the eye correction and all that to begin with and do it at the end after I've cleaned up and kind of blend them together, because when you apply an eye and blend out the edges, diffuse the edges, then it's kind of hard to get that coverage underneath the perimeter of where that blend ends. But since I'm not going to be working with that today, I'll go in with my under eye. Now, I absolutely do love me some Shape Tape. In small dosages, I feel like Shape Tape is an absolute necessity in a kit, because you need that power sometimes, that strong coverage in strategic spots. But I've been liking this. This is the Chanel, Le Corrector de Chanel. This is the Rose Corrector. This is a personal, so I have one in my kit and one for myself. And I just put little dots, 2 little dots. And I'll blend that out with a synthetic brush. This is the Royal and Langnickel, I don't even know what this is called. Balm 430, B-O-M, Balm, B-O-M. And basically I'm just going over the darkest area of my under eye, which honestly I know is not as dark as some people's. That's fine, but it works good just the same. There's also a peach corrector that I like to keep in my kit. And I'll bring that up into this hollow of the eye, because that brightening is a good way to add depth to the face without adding shimmer. So this isn't shimmery, this is just light. So if I go in different angles, you can kind of see where that coverage is. Now, another thing that I like about working with creams first is that you can get a really even, smooth, blended application to your base without things starting to get patchy, because creams typically blend a lot easier than powders do. And I'm going to turn off the ring light that I have here so you can see in lower light what the texture of the skin looks like. I don't have flawless perfect skin, but I don't have problematic skin either. I do have large pores and fine lines, so you can kind of see what the reality of these products look like on the skin is. And here is a closer look, slightly closer and darker, so you can see the texture that these products give to the skin. I haven't applied highlight or anything yet, so that glow that you see there is just the luminosity of the products that are underneath, which can easily be taken down if I were to powder, but then also pumped up if I were to use a different reflective cream or powder on top of there. Now, if I'm moving on to highlighting the face and sculpting the face, then I will probably go with a cream first. That's just my default. I do creams first. So here are some of my favorites, and I will put my favorite for myself on, but I just want you guys to see some options. So I really like the Becca Shimmering Skin Perfector. That's what this is called. This is a shade Moonstone. I depot these into little tubes like this to carry in my kit. So this one is the Becca Moonstone in a little flip cap. I really like that because it's easy, it's lightweight. I am never gonna use this amount on one single shoot, and I'm never gonna use even this amount on a single shoot, so it's easier for me to carry around. Also, I really like the Anastasia Beverly Hills Liquid Glows. These are more metallic finish, so they're a lot more reflective for things that need to be more intense. These are really good options. And if I'm going for something that's not fluid, that's more of a pressed balm, I really like the Danessa Myricks Duet Balm. This is the new shade Rose Water. This is more of a pinky undertone, but she's got 3 other shades. I will typically start with something like this. So if I take a little bit of the Rose Water and just press it onto the skin, you'll see how that bumps up that dewy glow. Now this finish, like the name says, is dew wet. So it's more of a dew wet sensation balm, but you can layer powder over it, which I find is a lot easier than getting a product that is too powdery to look light diffusing or light, more luminosity on the skin. So if I were to use just a lot of powder products, it will end up looking heavy on the skin. It will really bring out those fine lines and expression lines around the eyes. I don't really use anything on the forehead. I'll use maybe a little bit on the bridge of the nose, so coming down from here up until maybe half point of the nose, not so much on the point there. And using the creams really allows the product to melt into the skin and to seem more like that healthy skin luminosity versus a metallic powder sheen or glow or reflection. And there you have it, guys. So without going into the brows and the eyes and the lips and the color and everything else on the face, this is how I prep a canvas. Again, what I use and how I use it depends from person to person, and also the end goal of the shoot or whatever it is that we're filming. But these are the products that I reach for first. So everything from the Caudalie to the moisturizer, these are the things that I pull out of my kit and that allow me to perform the way that I want to, because I know the products, I know how they work, and that's important for you to know the tools that you have in your kit. If you integrate new things all the time, then give it time to test out and to see what it does and how it performs under different circumstances and situations. There's always going to be a surprise moment with a product that either excelled or completely flopped, but we want to avoid the flops. All right, so those are some of the things that are in my kit. In motion, on the face. Let me know what you think, what other suggestions that you have for videos coming up. I have about 4 ideas that I'm working on. I need to get this lighting situation fixed first, but after that, I'm all yours. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you being here and supporting. Thanks. I'll see you guys later. Bye.